Hello, I'm WP Suazo and I'm here to talk to you about elasticity. The most basic idea about elasticity can be conveyed with what's called the total revenue test. Now, before I use the total revenue test, I just want to explain elasticity to you. Elasticity asks, how does demand change as price changes? And a demand for a good is elastic if the quantity demanded changes faster than the price. And it's inelastic if the price can be changed faster than the quantity demanded. Because of that, we have this here. So if your demand is inelastic, by dropping the price, you'll also be depressing total revenue. Why is that? Because you'll be dropping the price faster than you can attract new customers, hence inelastic. The demanders of your product are not very flexible, so you would be dropping the price faster than new customers could be attracted, hence you'd be giving away discounts faster than gaining new sales. Your total revenue would be going down. Conversely, if you have an inelastic demand, a price hike makes sense because you can raise prices faster than your current customers can find a new source for your product. So what this says here is it says if the demand is inelastic, you raise price, total revenue will be going up. What about inelastic demand? In an elastic demand, if you give a discount, you sell more units in droves, hence your total revenue goes up. If your demand is elastic, any discount you give will be more than rewarded with new sales, so in the end, your total revenue increases. Conversely, if you try to hike the price on the demand of a good that is elastic, people will abandon you. People will quickly curtail their usage of your product, so if you up your price, total revenue goes down. Perhaps that intuition helps you. If it doesn't, it's not important. Just remember this core idea right here. When the demand for a product is inelastic, price and total revenue change in the same direction. This means dropping the price also drops the total revenue. With an inelastic demand, if you raise price, you're raising total revenue. Elastic is the opposite. If you drop the price, you'll be increasing your total revenue. If you increase your price, you'll be dropping your total revenue. Okay, let's take this total revenue test and drive it home. All right, let's say we have, in this simplest example, you have a product you sell for $1, you're selling 100 of them. Your total revenue is $100. And then you double the price. You double the price to $2. You double the price to $2. Well, what will happen? Well, the first thing I must cite is law of demand. Law of demand says there's no way you're going to up your price and sell more. So, your quantity demanded must be less than 100. That's what the law of demand guarantees. The next item I'm going to mention is what happens if your demand is not elastic nor inelastic? What happens if it's unit? If the sensitivity of your demand is unit, that means these changes between price and quantity demanded perfectly offset, hence your total revenue will stay the same. So if you double your price and your total revenue stays the same, unit means your total revenue stays the same. You double your price and your total revenue stays the same. This means your quantity demanded equals 50. This means your quantity demanded equals 50. All right? What happens if your demand is elastic? If your demand is elastic and you're upping the price, If your demand is elastic and you're upping the price, it means your total revenue has to go down. It means your total revenue has to go down. So this means my quantity demanded will equal between 1 and 49 units, between 1 and 49 units. My total revenue, as listed up here, must be less than $100. My measure of elasticity must be less than 1.0. If your demand is unit, your measure of elasticity is exactly 1. It's exactly 1.0. Here we have it. So, for me to abide by this idea that we've identified earlier, if I raise my price, total revenue has to go down. So, I was selling 100 at $1 a piece. I doubled the price. Not only do I sell less than 100, I sell less than 50 because my total revenue is going down if the demand is elastic. All right. If my demand is inelastic and I double price to $2, my demand is inelastic and I double price to $2. So inelastic demand, upping my price, I'll be upping my total revenue. So I can't say I'll sell 100 or 101 because that would break the law of demand. So what I know is that my quantity demanded will equal between 51 and 99 units. My total revenue will be greater than 100, and my measure of elasticity, sorry folks, will be less than 1. This inequality sign is wrong. If you have an elastic demand, your elasticity is greater than 1. Sorry for that error. So, inelastic demand, elasticity less than 1. Elastic demand, elasticity greater than 1. Okay. What happens if our demand is perfectly inelastic and we double price? If we're perfectly inelastic, that means quantity demanded stays at 100. Quantity demanded stays at 100. My total revenue now equals 200, and my elasticity equals 0. No change in quantity, elasticity equals 0. Lastly, if the demand is perfectly elastic, I double price, my quantity demanded equals 0, and so does my total revenue. My elasticity is said to be infinite, or it is convenient to look at it that way. All right, so these are all the scenarios that happen under increasing price. Let's talk about a discount. If we understand this concept, let us use this elasticity concept now with discounting. And here's what I give you to consider. Let's say we're selling 60 units at $2 a piece. Now, consider that as I finish erasing. 60 units at $2 a piece, our total revenue is $120. And we are going to discount the price to $150, 50 cents off. So, what does the law of demand guarantee us? The law of demand guarantees us it's the same. If we're discounting something, we're not going to sell less. So, quantity demanded must be greater than 60. Quantity demanded must be greater than 60 if we're discounting. If we're discounting a product, our quantity demanded has to increase. All right? The next step is let us find unit. Let us find unit. Unit means our total revenue stays the same. So our total revenue is still going to be 120. In order for that to happen, we take 50 cents off the price down to 150. We sell 80. Our total revenue is still 120. Our unit elasticity works out to be 1.0, our measure of elasticity. There we have it. Okay. Well, what happens if our demand is inelastic? If we have inelastic demand and discounting, let's take a look here. Inelastic demand, if we drop price, we'll be dropping total revenue. All right, so we know now that our total revenue has to be less than $120. Our total revenue has to be less than $120. Taking a look here, looking at unit, we sold 80. Our total revenue will exactly equal 120. Now, if it's inelastic, the demand, our total revenue has to be less than 120. Our total revenue has to be less than $120. So looking at these values here, our quantity demanded will equal somewhere between 61 and 79. Our quantity demanded will be somewhere, our quantity will be somewhere between 61 and 79. This way, our total revenue will be less than 120, and our measure of elasticity will be less than 1. Why? Because if our demand is inelastic, discounting makes total revenue go down. And 61 through 79 units is the only way we can satisfy the law of demand and make our total revenue go down. All right. Well, what about elastic? Well, if you remember, if we discount the price on an elastic demand, total revenue has to increase. So, what does this mean here? Our quantity demanded has to be greater than 80. Right, at 80, our total revenue stays the same, so our quantity demanded has to be greater than 80. Our total revenue is going to be greater than 120, and our measure of elasticity will be greater than 1.0. Great. Okay, let's finish off here by talking about a demand that is perfectly elastic. Imagine, say, selling on the internet a $2 product for $1.50 with shipping included, no snags in terms of shipping and handling. Folks, your quantity demanded would equal infinity, and so would your total revenue, and so would your measure of elasticity. You would never be done filling your orders if online you sold a $2 product for $1.50, free shipping included. All right, finally, we close with perfectly inelastic. So we sold 60 units, and we still sell 60 units despite taking 50 cents off. Our total revenue is going to be less than $120. Our measure of elasticity will equal 0. So why do we give a discount to people who are going to be buying 60 anyhow? That's what perfectly inelastic says. So in closing, I just stress again, learning elasticity can be a unit, a chapter that can make your head spin. Just remember that if the demand is inelastic, dropping price means dropping total revenue, or even more simple than that. If the demand is inelastic, price and total revenue change in the same direction, which means dropping price means dropping total revenue. Hiking up price means increasing total revenue. If your demand is elastic, price and total revenue change conversely. Thank you for watching.